Hi, my name is Matthew Ventures, and I've worked on prototyping probably over 100 different game ideas at both huge AAA studios and very small indie teams. And what I've seen is that there's often a very common framework for how to go about creating prototypes and essentially testing our assumptions of what's going to be fun within a game. This is just one of very many frameworks that you could use to think about your game development process, but I think it's a really useful one to have in your toolbox, so let's jump into it. So the basic idea of this design is that we're going to be dividing our game into two parts. Those are going to be the nouns and the verbs. So the idea here with a game like Mario is we can divide the game into pieces of what composes the game. For example, Mario, a mystery box, and all the enemies that face him. And then what do those things do, right? What are the verbs associated with these different characters and objects? So for the case of Mario, his verbs would be breaking open a mystery box or jumping on a Goomba's head to make it die, stuff like that. So we're thinking about this game in terms of what are the things and what do they do. And the reason why we want to break up our game in this way is so that we can divide it into layers, where basically each one of those layers, if we were to think of it as a sandwich, maybe one of those layers is the bread, the layers correspond to the different mechanics of a game. These are essentially those abilities we were talking about before. So if the player's ability includes jumping, then that would be one layer of this game. I wanted to just dive into this with a quick example from a game called Minecraft. And I love teaching the game Minecraft. I teach it in every class because it's so simple. Minecraft is so simple to get your head around because literally the layers are in the name. What do you do in Minecraft? Well, you mine and you craft. It's that simple, folks, right? So Minecraft really breaks down to what I would call a hamburger, or excuse me, a cheeseburger for that matter. There's two layers going on here. You've got the mining, which is the burger, and then you've got the crafting, which is the cheese. And together they make for a delicious sandwich where we've got these two layers working in unison to balance out a wonderful gameplay experience. But what would a game look like if we only had one of those layers? That's right, I'm talking about a game where we take out all the crafting. This game, let's call it mine, okay? There's no craft, it's just mine. And so I want you to take a moment and think about what would this game feel like to you. You're going into a mine, maybe. You're mining the gems, the diamonds, the iron, the gold, whatever it is. And you don't craft anything as a result. So maybe you mine for points or something like that. When a player is going through Minecraft, there may come a point where they're essentially just playing this game, right? So for example, if I go down into the mine and I want to collect some diamond for my character, I'm, at some point in that player experience, just going to be focusing on the mining. And then I'll take the diamonds I get, and then I'll turn it into a statue, my sword and my shield, whatever it is, right? But the idea here is that we can break the game into a series of smaller games. Just for an example, let's think about the opposite. Just crafting. No mining, just crafting. Just the cheese. Just the craft cheese version of Minecraft. And that, folks, would be, of course, the grilled cheese sandwich game, okay? Now, believe it or not, people do eat these disgusting things. It's basically a cheeseburger without any burger. It's a grilled cheese sandwich. And this kind of a game would focus really on the creation aspect. It'd be just creating stuff, just crafting stuff. Can you picture what this game would look like? Well, Mojang certainly could. And in fact, they made a version of the game which is exactly that. It's called creative mode. And in creative mode, you don't have to collect your resources. You could just focus on building something awesome, right? That's creative mode in a nutshell. And to some degree, it's kind of what you're doing when you get those resources together. Minecraft relies on having both of those layers together for one cohesive game. Now, that brings us to our question. What is a vertical slice? And I'm hiding it with my head a little bit here. But a vertical slice is if we took that sandwich, we took our samurai sword, and we chopped it down the middle. Basically, we'd have a little bit of each layer. That's what a vertical slice is, okay? Take crafting, for example. In crafting, you could also often get a diagram that looks something like this, where you can craft using a variety of resources. You've got the wood, you've got the iron, you've got the gold. But if we did a vertical slice of this game, that would mean only having one piece, right? So I'm going to take my samurai sword, I'm going to chop up and down the middle there, and we're going to have a game where you can only use iron. Okay, that's what a vertical slice would be. And we'll go into a little bit of a deeper example here. But the general gist of a vertical slice is a type of milestone, benchmark, or deadline with an emphasis on demonstrating progress or what the game would look like with just a little bit of a piece across all of the layers of a project, okay? In the sandwich universe, this is called a slider. Essentially, and I do love these things, it's basically a cheeseburger, or whatever it's got in it. Looks like we got some delicious bacon here. You're chopping the sandwich just to get a little bit of a piece, so you can get a taste of each part of that game. Modularization breaks down into these vertical slices. Basically, a prototype is a vertical slice. That's what a prototype is. It's just a vertical slice of your game, where modules are horizontal slices. These are the different pieces of a game that we can pull in or we can pop out. This is Minecraft again, but I've added in another layer called Fight. Okay, I think Minecraft deserves its own layer called Fight. Maybe it should be called Minecraft Fight, because I think people are fighting too. Each of these layers, you can see, has a variety of nouns applied to it. So if we go back to our earlier example of having the nouns and the verbs, what you'll notice on the diagram here is we've divided this game into a series of layers where each layer is a verb, and the columns are the nouns which you could apply that verb to. Okay, that's how you build a matrix for your game if you want to think about it in this framework. Basically, Minecraft allows you to craft, swords, shields, armor, and you can fight skeletons, zombies, spiders, the whole gamut, right? But how do you start? How do you start once you get this awesome idea? You start with a vertical slice. You figure, this is the game I have in my mind, but in order to test it out, in order to test the fun, I'm going to take my samurai sword and I'm going to chop it down the middle. Step 1 is finding the vertical slice of your game so that you can get a little bit of a taste of each one of those pieces. So this vertical slice would look a little something like this. We'd have a game where you could mine, but you could only mine the iron. We're not going to worry about implementing the gold code. We're just going to focus on one piece of the puzzle. Then we're going to go down to the crafting section. You have in your mind an awesome crafting system, but you're not going to worry about it just yet. To start, you're just going to have a game where you can only craft swords. That's the idea here, folks. You're just going to get a tiny bit of a taste of that layer, just like that delicious, delicious sandwich we saw before. Finally, fighting is we're just taking a piece, just a little taste of a zombie here, okay? So forget the skeletons. We're just going to have one piece. And the reason why we make games like this is so that we can find the fun fast. If we know our game needs these core elements, we can determine how they're going to work in concert together and test for problems early on. So let's say we do a test for this game and we realize, the zombie is just not enough fun. He's not enough fun because he only has melee attacks, right? And it'd be really interesting to find out what it would be, what would it feel like if we had a monster who could shoot at us, like the skeleton archer. Well, then we can make a step 2. Now we can go out, we can add the skeleton in, and we can see what that game feels like. And maybe we add that, it's fun, but it's missing something. We don't have enough defense against that guy. So now we can go into step 3 where we build out the armor. And we progress like this, gradually expanding upon the different levels in a way that allows us to always have a working piece. If we add in the armor and we realize, it's not fun anymore, the character's OP, we can dial it back in and we can find ourselves basically guiding ourselves through this North Star of a vertical slice that we know was fun from the beginning. The reason why I say this is because I've seen a lot of my students make a big mistake. They focused on just one layer at a time. They went in and they said, let's make a game where you're going to be mining and crafting and fighting, but we'll just make the mining system first. And they go really deep on the implementation here, allowing you to mine gold, mine iron, mine coal, all this stuff, right? But they never get to the crafting stage. They never get to the fighting stage. Or they realize the mining, it's got a problem. It doesn't work out after all. It would have been way better if they could try to get the vertical slice early. That way they could figure out how the different pieces of this game are going to work together. And that's what I recommend for your projects. When you're starting out your game ideas, you need to think about what's going to be the most economical, fastest way to find the fun, figuring out what's going to work and what's not going to work. And the way to do that, in my opinion, or at least one of many ways, is to do the vertical slice approach, breaking your game into those layers and testing them with a little taste of each to find the fun. All right, so that's a quick tip for you. Let me know if any of those tips or perhaps that approach has worked for you in the past in the comments section below. If this video helped you, please leave a like and do consider subscribing. I love you. I hope you make a great game, and if you do, using these techniques, you better send it to me because I sure as hell want to play it. Good luck.